Right, it's the 20th of the 5th, 2026. I've got a bit of hay fever today, so I'm going to try and get through this the best I can. I've had to redo it a couple of times. Right, so the Sadie threat's on the increase. I'm still being accused of raping Sadie when I've never had sex with her. Right, the next problem is I walk into a church, this church in fact, and I got my new camera that I usually use as the proper camera to take nice pictures, and I use a grubby camera to take pictures of setups or trouble that occurs in the street. But unfortunately, where these posh people and grannies wanted to look at Yahweh and talk about God's lovely creation, I accidentally dropped my camera with a crow going ha 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 ha. So I'm not very fucking happy about that. Luckily it still works, but yeah, I was pushed aside. And I just want to mention something, going back to Sadie. That specific threat is worse since 2022 onwards and today than it was when the threat very first began. And obviously this is coming with threats to smash me to pieces and to say that you are getting aggressively weaponed 50 times over in a violent fight, or that you're going to be murdered or stuff like that, and told me that I'm going to be shot, having petrol poured over me for something I haven't done. And it's also the same with what was I going to say? There's something connected to the threats. It's popped out my fucking head. It's all on sexuality, if that name's not mentioned, basically. And also this Savenne threat, they're doing exactly the same, mistaking me as Savenne. And here and there, even the Liam threat is popping up again after going through a stage where that hasn't been mentioned for quite a long time. So anyway, yeah, thanks to the love of Jesus Christ who provides sex for everybody. And I have been messaged at, by the way, on dating in the past. If we go back 15, 20 years ago, in the early days of when I was first used dating, some lady actually said that Jesus Christ is the gift and goodness of sex. Well, yeah, in my case, yeah, Jesus can only rape me as a child through men that sexually abused me as a child, forcing me to enjoy the suffering of being sexually abused as a child. And then he stops me getting anyone all my life. And this happened in my last life as well, because a psychic told me in my last life that the same happened there, and I was stopped from getting anyone. So in my last life, I was a female, and apparently I was sexually abused as a little girl. I had it really, really bad, apparently, as a child in my previous life. Then I worked in a laboratory when I was in my early 20s, and she said, the psychic said that according to what she replied, because my mum got the reading for me, you see, and then she gave me the information. This goes back 20 years ago, this reading. It's a past life reading, so this is what happened in my last life. So and basically I died tragically in my early 20s, and I was told that I was quite a good looker, and surprised that I've never had anyone in my previous life. Well, this life's basically the same if I don't get anyone. And what happens in my next life when I'm born again? That's the problem. And if you go to hell or go to heaven, there's no sex because of different realms. It can only be done in the material realm. Right. The next thing I want to move on to is Ella, because this is starting to get very interesting, this one. There's been stuff that's been spread about, and they've been lying to people in authority that are higher up in authority or whatever. For example, the police are lying about something, and it's going back to, say, the CIA or military, and they're being told stuff that the people lower down, like the lower end of the police or people in the streets, have twisted, and they're going by giving that information, lying about me, and it's coming back as I'm in a relationship with Ella, basically, which is not true. Just before I go on to that subject, I just want to mention this, because it'll only take a few seconds. I've had a couple of phone calls today, and one is someone in authority, And I just want to mention that the suggestion of Sadie's been brought back up when I've never had sex with her or never raped her. So I just want to mention that. It wasn't mentioned, but there was a hint. And this is also closer to Mind Centre as well, which is the community place where I saw this Ella. So now we need to get into this Ella, because this Ella is very interesting, to say the least. It's more serious than I first thought when I first saw her, basically. So, obviously, she's in her teens. She's an adult, but she's not very old. So she visited Mind, and she played pool with one of the other members there called Simon. And then after that, Simon didn't want to play anymore, so I said, Ella, will you play pool with me? I found out her name because someone mentioned her name and it picked up on her name. Otherwise I wouldn't have known her name. And she sort of liked me, like, you know, friends, like whatever. And I thought to myself, in my whole life I've never been liked by a sort of kind of blonde lady at that age. And I thought, I'm absolutely surprised at this. I'm really surprised that this Ella likes me, and I sort of just shocked. So I sort of got a bit of my heart out, you know, sort of. I thought, yeah, I like you, you know, and sort of, you know. And I sort of was joking with her and sort of laughing at her at the pool table when it went into like a odd pattern on the pool table when we're playing pool, you know. Sometimes it makes you feel a bit gigglish. So, and also I was a little bit tipsy that day. It was one of the most tipsiest mornings that I've had ever, actually. Waking up the next day is usually a hangover, but I had a bit of a headache, but I wanted to go Mind because I wanted to see if there was anyone single or to try and make friends. But obviously this Ella only went on that one day. She did tell me that she went the week before, but I didn't see her there the week before. And also she said she's going to she said she's going to Mind until May, and then she finishes her shifts of whatever it is she's doing there. That never came true. She was only there on that one day that I saw her on the 14th of January, and she was never there after that ever again. Now, I started discovering a load of old school jungle tracks from 1993 and 1994, and right across the dance trance underground scene. Dance trance is a specific rave event where they're playing deep and dark jungle back in the early 90s. So you had events like Dance Trance, A Wedding Anniversary Part 1. What's that after that? Dance Trance, The Sound of Summer at Telford, 1993. Dance Trance, Capital Punishment, November 93. Dance Trance, A Never Ending Story, the 12th of February 1994. Dance Trance, Mission Control, 2nd of the 4th 1994. And then you had the second wedding, which is the 25th of the 6th 1994. And sorry about this, it's got a bit of hay fever and it's very bloody annoying. Then you had Dance Trance, We Have the Technology, which is November 1994. And then after that you had Dance Trance Intelligence. However, Dance Trance Intelligence is one of those that I never had back in the day. But I want to mention a specific mixtape, which is Dance Trance Randall Intelligence, live at Atlantis in Bristol at the Trinity Hall or whatever it is. There was a specific event that was played, which was put in the Dance Trance Intelligence Tape 8 tape pack. I've never had the tape pack, but I got an online YouTube link and I decided to listen to it going back 2 months ago. Otherwise I wouldn't have known that mix. And it is very interesting, to say the least, because at near the beginning of the tape on side A, or the mix, you've got a track that's called Out on the Streets, and then you've got a Chinese MC that says through that track, Ella's coming strong, yeah, which is very interesting. But it gets even worse. Well, I wouldn't say it gets worse, I guess it because I have no communication with this Ella, and because she's got a boyfriend, and because she's been made pregnant, which has been done on purpose, obviously, I got to say, I got to use that term instead of unfortunately. So yeah, straight after I knew Ella, I started to notice that there was a spiritual uncovering in music tracks in the jungle scene, and the cryo chambers dark ambient scene, and also in the meditation and new age scene, and in some of the dark classical tracks as well. There are not many in the classical, but there's a couple. So, for example, subsequence, You're the One, it actually says Ella. It goes Ella at 3/4 of the way through the track, or somewhere around that part of the track. And then you got Mad, 2 on a Tip. Two on a Tip, Mad. Mad's a track title. This is on Jungle Splash Takes You Into Jungleism, and it basically has a sample in there where the sound in the music is saying Ella, literally. And then you've got the Alliance First Impressions where it does that as well. And then later on I discovered it in every other jungle track that sound Ella, or the choir sample in some of the jungle tracks, that very low choir sample, which sounds like it says God, or like that, whatever you want to call it, seems to be uncovering Ella, and it's in a lot of tracks. We're looking at about 150 tracks at least at this minute in time. That's including the new age and also the dark ambient. That is a hell of a lot of tracks. So let's get to the next section of Ella, shall we? So yeah, Ella, obviously there's a massive age gap between me and Ella, but she did like me. But according to someone I saw earlier, this is like a person who's sort of in a well-paid job, a nice clean car, an expensive type car, dresses very well. Bit like people that work in higher places, not high positions like in the government, but just a bit under, not by much, but with a normal accent, where he was saying to his missus, he was in his 60s or whatever, could have been 70s, but I think it was 60s. It's hard to tell. And he thought I was in a relationship with Ella. So I thought, what's going on? What's been twisted then? So I'm not very happy about that, to say the least. Because but if we go back to the other day, or whenever it was, I did have someone say that they messed it up for me, and saying, we stopped Ella going, you're not having her, and we're giving her a boyfriend to stop you getting her, and then saying that I molested Sadie when I haven't. So they've been doing that. So, but it gets even worse, because Ella is also the foundation in Christianity as well, of an interpretation of the light, or the divine, which basically means God. So Ella, to simplify the issue, quite literally means Jesus Christ. Means exactly the same, or near enough. So that annoyed me as well, because obviously I've never had sex in my whole life, apart from being sexually abused as a child many times. And also, just check the, I think I've already mentioned it, so I can't remember, but I'll mention it again just in case I haven't. In my past life, I never had anyone, and I was abused. In this life, it's the same, and when I'm born again, it's going to be the same. And obviously, I have to return to the material matrix if I want someone. So this is why it needs to be done in this life. But nothing I can do about it. No one's going to bother helping me. And we've got another problem, because this clairvoyant reading and this psychic reading, which I had, I'm not sure if I mentioned this on air now, because I've done the recording so many times. I'll just go through it quickly. Yeah, Olive is a girlfriend that is imminent. But the problem is I've already spoken to an Olive. This Olive, I'm getting confused now. I don't know what I bloody put on it, what I've said. This is not helpful. I'll have to redo it. No, I won't. No, I know. I just have to continue it. Right. I'll get through it again. I'll do it as quick as I can. So, yeah, the psychic in my last life said that basically I was abused. Never had anyone. And as a little child, I was a little girl who was abused many times. And then when I was an adult, I ended up working in a laboratory until my early 20s before I died tragically. And the clairvoyant said she was the type that everybody would fancy, all the men would have fancied. But unfortunately, I never had anyone. And obviously I'm a male in this life, but I never had anyone in this life either, apart from being sexually abused as a child. Then obviously it's going to happen again in my next life, because hell and heaven are different places. There is no sex in those places, so you can't be rewarded for the mistakes that have been happening here on earth and what's been taken away from me. So anyway, Olive is obviously a psychic prediction, so we had the clairvoyant and psychic reading saying that you're going to get Olive by the 2nd, but basically before June, or the 2nd of June or whatever it was, guaranteed by that date. The problem is we're 5 days into the reading and I've already come across an Olive that bumped into me, but unfortunately she's with someone. Going through this quick because I can't remember if I mentioned it on this recording or not, and obviously she wouldn't go with me if she was single, because we had a quick discussion. She wasn't saying it's be nasty, but it's just her own preference, but she's got a problem with the age gap. In America, the United States, Asia, Russia, Africa, all this moaning about the age gap just seems to be in Europe. Even my brother has confirmed this, saying that it does seem to be an issue in this specific part of the world. So it's not good, because it doesn't help me in any ways. But the problem is, on dating you can't use it properly because they're all scammers. And in actual fact, I'm looking on Facebook for people. I can't find anyone legal age of consent that's single. Now this is very fucking difficult, because obviously at the age I am, 44 coming at 45, this does not make it easy, because people have a real problem with the age gap these days. And the next problem is, by the age of 20 or 21, they're all mothers, and I don't want a mother. Why should I have to go with I don't mind accepting a second-hand person, but you've got to take into account that I'm going to have to go with someone. There's no choice in the matter, but I'm definitely going to have to go with someone older than someone who sexually abused me as a child at the age they were when it happened. There's no choice in the matter, because that person would have been a lot younger than me, than what I am today. But like I said, in the past, all my enemies have stopped me getting anyone. They've taken what should have been mine, they made them pregnant, and they stabbed me in the back. And they're always the so hot type that they go with. That's the problem. What they taken from me cannot be replaced. Guaranteed, it cannot be replaced. So I'm definitely going to have to go with a second-hand person, but I just have to make sure that it's not too used, who's clean of diseases, and will provide a service for me or whatever, or get in a relationship. Obviously I'm not going to hurt a girlfriend if I get a girlfriend, even though if it's a second-hand girlfriend. And I'm not going to shit on that girlfriend, I'm not going to cheat on that girlfriend, and I'm not going to hurt that girlfriend. There's a couple of people that I've spoken to in the past, because I spoke to one for 2 years, on and off, going to a coffee morning when I was living at my old place. But I asked her if she's single, and she had a problem with the age gap, and she fell out with me after being good friends for 2 years, just for asking if she's single and are you interested in me. Just saying that. That's how fragile people are today, and how they don't take it very nicely. And these types of people, ones that I wanted in the past, because they moaned about the age gap, they got into the wrong relationship and ended up being beaten in domestic violent relationships, and yet they prefer that. But that's the way their heads work and how their minds work. They don't allow, they don't give you the... Just check the time a minute, because I don't want to miss that bloody bus. Yeah, because I'm on the last bus, you see, and I don't want to end up sleeping outside tonight. so I don't want to get stuck on the recording, you see. So I can't remember where I was now. Right, where was we? Oh, I've lost my position of where I was. Oh God. Let me just gain my... What happened was I had a sudden think, I've got to go get the phone out because I don't know what time it is. Because sometimes when I'm doing these recordings, you can go on doing them and then you don't realise that you've been doing this for half an hour and then you miss a bus sort of thing. So I had to check it. But yeah, going back to, I know where we was, enemies and taking girls away from me, back in the early days of when I should have had someone. The thing is, you can't socialise, you see. It's 99% of all the people out there in relationships. If someone is so hot, very sexy, very good looking, attractive, good looking, or basic attraction, all those are in relationships. They're only leaving me with the munters or those that look like sick off the floor, and they're telling me that I'm sad if I don't go with that type because of my age. But they don't realise what I've been through, and they're thinking I'm the one that's been doing all this, not me actually getting abused, but accusing me of being the actual abuser. And I've had this all my life, and 99.9% of all problems right through my whole life, all the trouble, me being here in fact, is because of sexuality, and this is why I'm not letting it go. Although I've spoken to an Olive 3 days ago, I think it is, it could be just another Olive, or someone that's named Olive, because this psychic said it's set in stone, and this person wouldn't have been in a relationship 2 days before I saw her, if that was the case. These two psychics said it's set in stone. The psychic said it set in stone that I saw, and the tarot reader also made that suggestion but didn't say I was going to get Olive. When I got pissed and paid for an online reading giving date of birth, my name, and a picture of me of how I look now, an instant picture that I took on that night, paid 20 quid to get one message. She only gives you one message, but she'll do the psychic reading for you and give you the message. She said exactly the same, and she said you need that Olive as well before your future gets worse, because she senses that things are going to get a lot worse down the line. And she said as soon as that Olive comes into your life, she's going to break that curse of all these problems. And also I was told not to move until this Olive comes into my life as well, because she thinks it's going to get... She said it'd be too... She told me I can't tell you what to do, but I'm just advising you from what the spirit world's telling her. Do not move. It's not. You'll only end up in the worstest danger ever. So I've took that into account, and I'm not. Obviously, still got a bid to make some active progress on the Home Finder Council register, but they are at the moment only offering places that are rough where people are going to start and give me trouble. That's the problem. And I did say that if this Olive doesn't come true, it's going to have to be replaced, because but I will say something, and this happened yesterday. 2 people in their 20s said you lost Olive or something like that. I can't remember the exact thing they said. Like, or Olive's been taken from you. We stopped you getting Olive. I can't remember what was said. And I thought, well, where's that information coming from? Because you don't even know who I am. And I thought, who's doing this? What's causing that? It's not me getting thoughts in my head. This has actually been said. So this is very interesting, to say the least. But yeah, so there's still 13 days left, so that's quite a good time period. But all I was given in description is she's going to be in her early to mid-20s, which was the same age as this lady that I saw several days ago. But you might not know any Olives in your whole life, and then suddenly you might see one Olive, there might be another person with his name Olive. It could be like that, I don't know. I can't put this I can't put this clairvoyant and psychic reading down as fallen through until at least June the 2nd or June the 3rd. Probably June the 3rd. If it falls through, someone's going to have to replace it because it's been deliberately messed up. Yeah. So, the next thing I want to mention, I can't remember if I mentioned this now, is I dropped my camera in the church to let some rich type people through to look at a load of rubbish on the wall. And obviously, it's a new camera. But last year, I left my camera in the church, only there for 20 minutes. And I didn't realise I didn't pick it up, went back, and someone's stolen it. And it's one I only bought, and it was 200 quid or something, or if not more than that, I can't remember what it was, 220, something like that. Because it's off of eBay, and they're charging a lot for the older digital cameras because everyone uses a smartphone. I don't use a smartphone for the principle of sexuality and the fact that I don't want to waste my money using a phone, because I'll never use it in the street anyway, because I have too many people start on me all the time and too much organised force that I've got to battle around, and I just would never use it anyway. And then you've got bikes to erections, loud bikes to erections. I just wouldn't use it in the street. I don't actually know whether I'll ever get a smartphone, to be fair. I was given one by a friend that I knew, but I ended up losing it, kind of deliberately, because I was in a mood on a specific day. But I never used it. I only sort of put YouTube tracks on it and sat in the communal garden where I live. And I only did that for the first week, and then obviously that's when I got rid of the phone. The thing is, I'm not a smartphone type person. If I got a girlfriend, I'd get into using smartphone easy, quickly, and yeah, but the thing is, I'm not going to bother, because obviously I'd be looked at, if I walk around with a smartphone, I'd be looked at as if I'm in a sexual relationship, because going back to 2003, they were trying to name the smartphone, or thinking of naming it a sex phone, but it was politically incorrect, and it would, and the risk to, what was it, well, obviously the risk to children, obviously, but the risk to something else, I can't remember what it was now. It would cause problems, so they just named it a smartphone. 2003 was a very bad year, in fact. I had the music industry put against me, and it's also a year where they banned all the underground jungle tracks from going onto CD format, where they brought in a new law. That specific year, 2003, really pissed me off when it came to the music scene. And it's the same with the techno scene as well. They put a new rule there for the techno, and then they did another rule where they can't put the hot track on the B-side of a record when it comes to underground jungle or techno later on. So it has to be done through certain companies, so like the surviving pirate labels or bigger record companies that can provide a limited amount of copies for those that are still into the music, but without losing costs. And as the scene dies, many people are going out the jungle scene anyway, because what happens is when someone gets in a relationship and they have a child, they change their music. They just go into ordinary pop or hip hop, maybe the club scene, in the commercial mainstream. They leave all this underground stuff behind. They just I don't know why this is, but they just progress into what I'm saying. Now, going back to Ella, I have to mention this specific person because it's getting serious on that specific person. Why people are thinking I'm with her when I'm not. Today, because of this specific thing, and because of what's happened, and because people are thinking I'm with Ella, and they're making this suggestion on the internet through plural suggestions or whatever, and I've had to post a hard drive to basically the government in the United States to let them know what's going on, because all this trouble, you've got Putin, who's was having a bit of a war with Iran and Ukraine and whatever. As soon as that died out, or the war started, it was roughly around the same time periods where the trouble and the threats started, where they're telling me we messed it up, we stopped you getting it, and basically telling me that they're going to box me in, and telling me that they're going to smash me out or weapon me if I don't change my t-shirt, because they're going to get mistaken me as them when they say it. They want me to change my t-shirt. I've got a specific t-shirt that I got done in January on eBay, which has the Dance Trance flyers from the jungle scene that I was into back in the 90s. So you've got Capital Punishment, Dance Trance, A Never Ending Story, and my favourite, which is Dance Trance Mission Control, 2nd of the 4th, 1994, which is compiled on my t-shirt in a college. And for some reason, it's upsetting many of the rough community, that specific t-shirt, and I do not know why. I like to know what is going on, and I like to know what is going on with the seller. And if Olive doesn't come into my life, then something's really going on, because the psychic said she is guaranteed. Then again, that mind place where I go to, last week and this week, there was only 2 people that attended. The rest were all staff. I didn't go last week. I only popped my head through the window today to see if who was in there, to see if it was worth going in there. And obviously I left it to a later time to make sure that people arrived there when I went to look. And again, there's only 2 people. So it's absolutely pointless going there. So wherever you go, there's this other person called Lucy. I get this burning problem at my place, which causes cat claw scratch marks, sore eyes, like it's a sour burning sensation that's right across from top to bottom. It doesn't start in a specific area. When the burning starts, it starts all over suddenly. And sometimes you get itching because of it, or very sort of numb, sort of itchy type feet. I get that every night, in fact. When I wake up in the morning, I've always got itchy feet every day. Every night. Or every day I wake up. And it's been like that for the last 3 years. And again, it only happens at my place. It doesn't happen anywhere else. I don't know what's causing it. Well, Lucy's one of those sort of sexual looking people in her early 20s. And because I mentioned her name on Facebook, she reported it to the Mind community people, and they put me on a bad behaviour contract there, which means you can't share emails, phone numbers, and you can't engage in relationships. And or you get in trouble and banned, and if they want to take it further, they can involve the police. So yeah, there's a lot of people I've spoken to on the internet in America that are like wondering why these people are small-minded in the UK, and they got the same sort of mind I have. It's a bit more different. The Americans are a bit more intelligent. Now, according to these conspiracy theorists, all these people in America, they say that all the American people are dumb out there and stupid. Well, when you compare it to the UK, I think you can say that there's a lot more higher intelligence in America than there is in the UK, and that's a fact. But yeah, and shortly I've got to get the bus. Yeah, this is annoying, this hay fever, but for the last 3 years we had that hot sunny year, and that's where I first got it. Otherwise I've never had it in my whole life. If it's not hay fever, it could be from the alcohol, where I smoked a lot of fags and had alcohol going back, not last night but the night before, and I had a sore throat when I woke up, like a swollen sort of sore throat, when you get like, it could be developed like some fever from that. But at the moment I'm trying to get off the smoking. I'm chewing on Nicorettes. They say it can cause mouth cancer, but I am only chewing them in the evenings when I'm having my drink, so that eliminates the issue. So yeah, I just can't understand what this specific person, out of all people Ella is an interesting one. I've never actually asked her if I can have her or whatever, you know, or do stuff with her. I've never asked that question. I've just been friendly with her and spoken a few things, but nothing sort of too personal. And also, that hasn't popped in my head. There's a Ella Fitzgerald, right? That's a singer with a Dance Trance head cover, which is mostly Mission Control mixes, with a couple of wedding anniversary mixes and Sound of Summer. There's a book called Mind, A Simplified Study. But prior to that, you had a book in the 90s that was released called Blacks or Penguins Encyclopedia of the Medical Book or Medical Dictionary, and it had a picture of a head on it, like a line drawing, a little bird sort of design picture next to the ear in the actual drawing, and it had like a lip that was sort of, the lip was like rounded, you had like a little red round bump on, well, I don't call it bump, it's on the back of the head on that specific picture. It's mixed colours. It's got like a bit of red, yellow, orange, very small touches of green and blue. And then obviously these tape covers were sold as single tapes for $4.99 back in the day, and they contained the single mixes of those dance trances. So like Dance Trance Randall, Dance Trance Kenny Ken, Dance Trance Jumping Jack Frost, Dance Trance Ratty, Top Buzz, DJ Fallout, you name it. Well, the person who did that cover is also known as Fitzgerald, which is the same surname as Ella Fitzgerald, but it gets even better because Ella actually resembles that specific picture on those Dance Trance tapes, which I bought as a teenager or child. Well, I got them when I was the end of 12 upwards, basically, and they were mostly Mission Control to start with. And then my bestest mixes today, even. I play these tracks or mixes today at this age. Nothing's changed. But I sort of preferred it to the mainstream, you know, back in those days. So, yeah. So the next thing I want to mention is Ella literally does resemble that, but she also resembles my face, slightly. There's a resemblance in my face, and she has an accent which is very similar to one of the neighbours at my place, which is the... she wouldn't be very happy if I said her name, so I'll leave that off. But it begins with G. But slightly different, and she's slimmer build. She's got that sort of appearance of, if you saw Ella, you'd just like her or love her straight away, because she's got that sort of look where you can sense that, if those that can sense into people, you just see that instantly. It sort of like touches your heart in some ways. It's sort of got that like connection, you know, spiritual connection maybe, I don't know, it's hard to say. But even if she was available, because of what's happened and the fact that she's got a boyfriend and the fact that she's been made pregnant and had pregnancy tests, I think you can safely say, if you're working out on the principle of something that was programmed, or just for example, if it was meant for me and they knew it years and years ago, the CIA or whatever, I think you can safely say they made the biggest mistake in living history. But I don't look at it on the principle of that. But there's a lot of suggestions applying Ella when it comes to this issue. So, and the other thing is since that day onwards when I saw Ella's, where they put 700 to 1,000 loud bikes to erections every day, as I've already mentioned, apart from 3 days where it's 3 to 400. I don't like mentioning this at all, it's very personal, but it pisses me right off. Anyway, we're going to have to come to an end here, because obviously he's getting very short on time for getting the bus home. So if there is anyone single, and will allow the age gap, and is got smooth attraction skin, like everybody else has had, then please get in touch, because there's no way I'm going to get anyone if this olive falls through. If this olive falls through, it's been done deliberately. They've deliberately messed it up, because these psychics, this one in particular that I saw, she was serious about it. She said it can't fall through. So, you know, if it falls through, it's going to have to be replaced. But it gets better, because I don't know anybody that's single. I don't know anyone at all. And if I do get anyone, I would prefer to relocate to a different area, because the amount of trouble I'm getting in this area, especially in the Taunton, Bridgewater, Weston-super-Mare, Burnham High Bridge, Cheddar, Glastonbury Street, Wells, Somerton, Wellington, Langford, and areas like North Peverton, or that area of Somerset. Literally every other person is starting on me, shouting at me, mistaking me as Savenne or Liam, mostly Savenne. Threat after threat, all the time. In actual fact, I don't actually feel comfortable going in that area on my own anymore, if I use public transport or whatever. I always go in the other direction, and Yeovil's now starting to get nasty as well. It was really nasty in 2021 and 2022, but that's started to get even nastier. This year in particular, there was 2025 is the calmest year on record. 2021 into 2022 is the most violent year and most dangerous year I've ever lived in my life, for direct threats and attempted attacks. So that's sort of between when I moved there. It's just kicked off 2 weeks after I moved there, basically. However, I moved there a week earlier than I should have, and that first week that I moved there wasn't much in the way of setups. It started on the second week. I found that interesting. Like these control forces around me that are coming out in a corrupt way or nasty way. So, yeah. So, these threats have been literally bad every single year since, basically since I left school, but since I was 17, let's work it out, let's just try. Late 16, yeah. So when I was late 16, I've had trouble every day since. There's many things I could go through, but you'll be looking about, for me documenting it, in brief that is, you'll be looking at about 10 days, 24-hour days of me just documenting my stories of how it's been over the last how many years with all the problems, and not making that up either. So that's how bad it's been. And there'll be a lot of things. I mean, my deep depression life story pack, or what I call sexually ripping Justin to pieces conspiracy, or nightmare, or time, or my life story, or Justin's negative problems, or whatever I named it. There's many things I've named it, quite a few different titles, about 10 different titles for the same thing. But it started off with hard evidence that God doesn't exist, questioning this quote creation, like why do we step on insects and all that. That would have been the start of the deep depression pages before I added my life story to it. And when my life got worse, and there's also loads of stuff that I've chucked away, 300 pages roughly, of very small writing. It was really small writing, because I was doing it to save on money when I'm photocopying it. But when I went to the digital side of things, I prayed to God for a girlfriend for the first time in my life, and instead of things getting better, it just gets 10 times worse. So obviously I've fallen and turned against Christ, and I've turned against Yahweh as it stands today. I made that complete fall in April of this year, and I'm not going to let it go, and I'm not going to forgive. It's too late to do anything. Now, I don't want to go on about age gaps or people moaning about all this, because I mention that all the time on nearly every documentary I do. But what I will say, if there's anyone single and there is anyone that can accept the age gap, someone with a younger accent, not that I don't want someone with that social accent where they've been in relationships before, or a mother sort of accent, or to have that hard sort of accent. I just want someone who's got like an accent like me, basically, calm, friendly, chilled out, and likes doing things, likes being outdoors or whatever. I'm a nature type person. I don't like the indoors. I don't like sitting around doing nothing all day. I'm not that sort of person. I like to be out. So, and you will be loved if you can help me, and I would never hurt you. So if there is anyone, get in touch. But obviously, if it comes to wanting payments, I can't accept scammers, and I'm not giving Netflix cards, travel costs. I'd prefer someone from the UK, but I'm not sure if that is actually possible, because they're so stupid in the UK these days. I mean, all these people out there, they're telling me I've got to go with people over the age of 40, some of them. Those really dry and sarcastic, stuck-up people that moan about age gaps or whatever. They really give it some, they really do. So, yeah, it's not good at all. Yeah, I've had people as high as 37 tell me that I'm sad if I go with anybody under that age. Yeah, I've never had anyone. So basically, tell me what age you were when you first had sex, or when you lost your virginity. I guess it was under the age of 40, because I'm being told if it's not over the age of 40, you're sad. And I had nothing in my whole life. That's basically what some of them are saying. The ones that are really dry and sarcastic and very stuck up, or the ones that have got this gar accent, instead of saying bar, they say bar, or instead of saying bash him out, they say bash him out, bring that R out in the word. It's got that fucking stupid fucking accent. But not much I can do. If I'm still single by 2nd of June, I want someone to help me, because I'm not going to live my life properly until. Well, this is why I went on to like the vodka from the lager, going back just over a year ago, and why I started smoking again and trying to stop the smoking, because I'm getting chest problems, and I'm doing pretty well at the moment. At this minute in time I am, but I've got to keep up with it. So like no more than 2 fags a day, limiting it, hiding the fags in the church, or getting a fag, taking one home, just having that one, doing stuff like that. Yeah, if I'm single by the 2nd of June. This Ella thing, though, this is more serious than I ever thought. It's all building up. It's still building up at this minute in time, and it's sort of just very interesting, to say the least. Especially this, when it comes to like the covers, the audio samples, the suggestion, or yeah, it's interesting. But they put that through if I was supposed to go with that person. And also, where they're messing about trying to force people to go with similar ages, in the last 15 years roughly, this is putting everything through. But, like I said, I've had to release some hard drives with USB cables to 2 specific countries, because of the media, or should I say the internet media, or suggestions are applying that I'm with this Ella when I'm not, and I'm not happy about it, especially when it's the type that I really sort of love in the heart. I love her more than I fancy her. It's just someone that you can take to in that way. It's a good friend, but like I said, she's gone now. They've messed that up. If I was supposed to be with that person, I don't exactly know what is what, but I'm looking at it on a, if that was the case, But anyway, I leave it there.